Kirishima Eijiro he was Kirishima Eijiro. He was a beta, almost 21 years old as of next month. He finished school for kinesiology, but was still working at his friend Kaminari's coffee shop, otherwise known as Deja Brew. Nothing special or unique to note. That thought used to bother him a lot. He was never one to stand out growing up. He looked rather plain, save for the eyes, not very smart, but not exactly stupid either. And when everyone around him in middle school presented, to no surprise, he was a beta. Things changed a bit after that, though, when he met Mina. She helped him come out of his shell bit by bit. He figured if he wanted to be noticed, then he'd have to make an impression. It wasn't an easy task for betas, after all. They didn't have a natural strong scent or any real defining features. So he dyed his hair red on a whim and started to spike it. Now it was his signature look, and he wouldn't change it for the world. He also started to work out, which is the reason he studied kinesiology. Nothing quite made him feel as good as exercising. Plus, he did look good with all his muscles, though he'd never admit that conceding thought out loud. And again, thanks to Mina, he probably one of the most outgoing people in their friend group. That's a thought he can look back on and feel proud about. He never thought he'd be a people person, but now he hates to be alone. But that's another rant for another time. Oi, Earth to Kiri, Mina said, walking behind Kirishima with a tray of freshly baked danishes. I know you're not usually up this early, but do you think you can please pause the zone out session and give us a hand? She asked. Kirishima looked up. Oh, right. Rant. He's ranting in his head when he should be brewing coffee. Leave it to him to rethink his entire life story when he's too tired to function. How did Mina, Zero, and their new pastry chef Sato typically function at 4 a.m. before opening? Even Kaminari, who owned the joint, didn't come in until later in the morning. He wanted to think that he'd turn Zero down the next time he needs conversion, but he knew that he wouldn't. How could he say no to one of his best bros? There he goes again, ranting in his mind. He'd definitely make himself a cup of coffee real quick before they finished the essential opening chores. Luckily, Mina said it didn't really pick up in business until about 6:30, so he had plenty of time to actually wake up all the way. Mina turned on the radio to the usual top hits, which helped Kirishima's mind fully spring to life. He downed his white mocha quickly, despite burning his tongue a few times. He was definitely going to be paying for all that sugar later during his workout. He trashed the empty cup and finally finished the various brews before helping Mina and Sato fill the display cases with the wide accessory assortment of desserts. Pastry sales have gone up since they hired Sato. It was definitely a good investment on Kaminari's part. As dumb as their friend could be, there was no doubt that he knew how to run a business. The hours seemed to fly by after that. Sato went to the back to clean up his dishes, and Mina went to unlock the door and flip the dingy neon sign on. It glowed rather brightly, though, considering the sun still hasn't risen yet. One of our regular will be here soon. He's almost always the first one. He's the grumpy one Zero and I told you about. Usually Zero deals with him at the register, so do you think you can manage? I have to get their drinks just right, or he gets all pissy, Mina informed him, putting on her apron and tossing Kirishima's his, though he always tips no matter how bad he thinks our drinks is. He must really like the coffee, she added as an afterthought. Kirishima laughed and tied on his black apron. I think I can manage, Mina. Thanks for the heads up. If anyone could handle a disorderly customer, it was him. Most of the time when they had someone who was rowdy or wanted to complain to Kaminari, they usually just grabbed Kirishima instead. He was always positive and able to calm a stressful situation down. And besides, no one really dared to mess with a guy of Kirishima's size. He was built after all. It also helped that he was a beta. He didn't have an aggressive alpha scent or an omega scent in which someone would try and make him submit. Sometimes his averageness really worked in his favor. Better to be generic than cliché, or at least that's what he told himself. Just as Mina had predicted, the small bell jingled, echoing through the empty dining space and signifying that someone had walked in. "Welcome!" he greeted, his usual cheery customer service voice coming to him as naturally as his smile, though he wouldn't be fooling anyone if he told them he wasn't always cheery. He turned towards the register and looked up. Immediately his eyes met a head of messy ash blonde hair and crimson eyes, just a shade duller than his own, that he swore were looking right through him. An electric shiver went straight down his spine. He almost felt like he couldn't breathe. "Just gonna stare at me, or are you gonna take my order?" The male, upon closer observation, had a very attractive face and a rather healthy build. Kirishima couldn't remember a single time that he thought a person was attractive upon first glance. He was usually a fall-for personality type, and this guy's personality so far was unruly. "Oi, are you ignoring me, shitty hair?" The male's stance was rather laid back for someone who talked as if he was tense. There was no mistake that this was an alpha. Kirishima blinked, coming back to reality. "Sorry, man." He rubbed the back of his head, grinning through his face was flushed. That was a rude nickname if he had ever heard one. He liked his hair. It looked totally manly. "What can I get you?" he asked in return. It was still hard to breathe, but it didn't hurt, so he wasn't concerned about it. He knew he needed to keep his head on straight with his customer. "Hot black iced coffee. 1 cream, 1 sugar. Medium." The blonde alpha replied shortly. Kirishima nodded, writing the order on the cup. The order unsurprisingly suited the male, at least from how he felt about this first encounter. "Name, please?" he asked, looking at the other once again. The alpha grunted. "Bakugo," he huffed. Another shiver ran down the beta's spine. Was he getting sick? He just kept ignoring it. Kirishima wrote down the name and slipped the cup over to Mina, who had been keeping an eye on the interaction taking place. She turned to make the drink. Kirishima swallowed the lump in his throat. Every time he glanced at Bakugo, it was like they were looking right through him, and somehow he knew all his darkest secrets, which was ridiculous because Kirishima was an open book, almost. He took a deep breath, one he hoped wasn't noticeable to the alpha. "That'll be $3.59, he said. The man who had came back every day apparently already had a $20 bill in hand. He gave it to Kirishima, who quickly made his change. Instead of putting the change in his wallet, Bakugo shoved the entire 16.41 in the tip jar, and walked towards the receiving counter where Mina already had his drink prepared. He grabbed it and quickly stormed out of the building, obviously having somewhere more important to be. Mina whistled. "He must have thought you were cute, Kiri. Usually he pays a tip with a 10. She teased. Kirishima's legs finally gave out, causing him to fall towards the floor behind the counter. She gasped before he yelled, "Sato!" The larger male came rushing in from the back kitchen. He helped Kirishima up and into the back office to sit him down. Kirishima felt hot. The second Bakugo left, he couldn't stop shaking. The voice in his head was off. Did they even make sense? He felt like his life was being drained out of him, and the emptiness that was left inside was set on fire. What the hell kind of flu did he catch? Why did it come on so suddenly? He looked up, dizzy. Sato gave him a muffin to eat. Oh yeah, maybe his blood sugar just dropped. Mina and Sato gave each other a look. "Kiri, I think we should call Kaminari and take you to the hospital." Kirishima bit into the muffin before he looked up confused. "Why? I get this happened kind of suddenly, but we both know I'm healthy as a horse. I'll be fine. Besides, who will cover for Shiro?" Mina shook her head and covered her nose with her hand. "No, Kiri, I think you're going into heat. Kirishima's heart skipped a beat before everything went black. Okay, hi puppies. I just wanted to tell you guys, sorry about my voice, but I really hope you liked this one, reading thing. Sorry, I can't speak. I wanted to try something a little different with this one. It took me a while to edit, but I really hope you liked it. It's just a little thing I wanted to put at the end. I'm gonna say this again. I really hope you like it, and please subscribe and like. That'd be great.